Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello? I have a feeling I'm not on. So let me know if I am. As things didn't set up like they usually do, and I don't think I got the Zoom thing going. So, let me know. I have no sense whatsoever if you can hear me. Maybe you can. What the hell? I'm very confused if you can. I am on? Wow. What the fuck? Excuse me. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, given what my understanding is of these buttons I'm pushing. Wow. Okay, great. Okay, good. I'm on. I mean, like, I only have today and tomorrow, and then I'm going to be out for the count for a few weeks, so I really do want to be on. So here we are. I can't believe it. I don't know if I can accept calls, but I guess if I'm on, I can. I don't understand anything that's going on anymore. I'm a confused human. Okay, let's start up. Yike. What did I want? There was something I had wanted to share with you, and I'll be damned. This is a second indication that I'm an old lady whose head isn't working as well as it used to, that I'm starting the show in this manner. First of all, not being certain if I'm even on, and now musing openly about something I intended to share with you, and I can't effing remember it. Oh, dang it. I'll tell you. But it'll come in its time. Hey, the big news. Did you see Oliver North? See if these names ring any bells. Oliver North and Fawn Hall have gotten married. Did you hear that? I mean, not just now, but did you hear of that? It's mind-blowing. Do you remember those two? I mean, Ollie North for sure, right? This takes us way back to the days of what used to be scandals. Iran-Contra. And people not quite doing things by the letter of the law. Remember that? And Congress doing its job and holding true hearings. And geez. Anyway, she was his secretary, yeah? And at the time, because she was a babe, and he was a good-looking guy, and she had smuggled papers out of the White House under her clothes, there had been, rumors that they were a couple. And he actually addressed them, and absolutely outraged. He said he acknowledged that his secretary was an extremely beautiful young woman, but that he had been married to a wonderful woman and had never been unfaithful to her. And, in fact, when the woman he'd been married to finally died in November, that is when I guess Fawn came to her funeral, and they were reacquainted. And then it happened. And so his wife hasn't even been in the ground for a year, and he married the beautiful secretary from long ago. Isn't that lovely? She, it turns out, is even more bizarre. She was widowed. Where did I see all this? Wait a minute. I have to find this. Maybe you guys know this. I feel like I discover things and think, oh my God, and then I want to tell you about it, And then, my fear is that, you've been there, done that. You know all about it. But she left Washington after all of that and went to California. Where am I going to find this? God damn it. I'm going to find it. Damn it, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to find this. Here it is. She goes to California and, oh, fuck you! Excuse me. Hang on. I got it! She goes to California and she marries a guy named Danny Sugarman. You can't make that up. And guess who Danny Sugarman was? He was the manager of The Doors. The Doors. What? I mean, had been, I guess, right? I mean, this is, I don't know. And then he, being who he was, got her into crack cocaine. Un-effing believable. From Ollie North to crack cocaine. But then she got into rehab after she'd overdosed. And they stayed together, she and Sugarman. After rehab and stuff, they stayed together, and she was with him until he died in 2005 of lung cancer. So there you have it. Ollie and she finally got together. Man, do you remember Iran-Contra and what the hell that was even about? Smuggling arms to the guys taking on the commies in Nicaragua through Iran? I can't even, you know what? I can't even remember it. But those were back in the day. Back in the day when scandals were, I don't know, were what they had been, as opposed to the ones we got now, which are frightening and constant. Ollie North and Fawn. Oh, jeez. So, I saw something on social media that I thought was just so right on the money. A comment about these recent pronouncements from our Supreme Court. And this came from a sports commentator, I believe, Gemily Hill, not sure how she pronounces it. But she looked at these, sort of recent cases and said, so let me get this straight. The Supreme Court has ruled that race cannot be used as a factor in college admissions. But the Supreme Court has ruled that race can be used as justification for grabbing some innocent person off the street or out of their workplace and jailing them. Now, go figure. And you know what? I hadn't thought of those two taken together, but that is, they said race in college. No. That's what they said when they pretty much overturned the Voting Rights Act. Race? We don't have a problem there anymore. And then, a person's race is, you heard him speaking Spanish? Well, there you go. That's probable cause right there. Better tell all the kids in Spanish class to watch out. I mean, wow. And then she went on to say, there it is. I mean, that race cannot be used to get into college, but race can be used to get the same kind of people into jail. And she said, that's America in a nutshell. Yeah. So also in regard to that, America in a nutshell, and it's the racism at our core. The case that the court decided to, overturn the judge who had said you can't use ethnicity and race and the fact that somebody's standing where there are day jobs as a justification for arrest, and the Supreme Court said, oh, no, yes, they can. That case involved a specific incident or two, and let me just share with you one of the specific incidents, because it humanizes what the court had access to. This is what happened. Is this a kosher in America? And this is what the court said yes to. A guy, an American citizen named Jason Brian Gavidia, he identifies as Latino. He was born and raised in LA. And on June 12th of this year, he happened to step onto a sidewalk in Montebello, California. And he couldn't help but see scary-looking guys carrying guns and military-style rifles, one of whom ordered him, "Stop right there." Another of the scary guys ran towards him. This is all according to the evidence that the court had. The agents repeatedly peppered him with questions. Are you an American? And they repeatedly ignored his answer. I am. I am an American. I am an American. They said, what hospital were you born in? And he said, I don't know. I guess a lot of people don't. Do you know? I do. But I can see where somebody doesn't know. And then, according to the case the court had, the agents forcefully pushed him up against a metal-gated fence, put his hands behind his back, twisted his arm, and asked him again, what hospital were you born in? And he said, I don't know, it was in East LA. Look, I can show you my real ID. They took his ID, they took his phone, and they took him. And this is part of the case that the Roberts Court looked at and said, no, we disagree with the judge who said you can't do what they did. You can't believe it. I want to remind you of our Constitution. Far be it from me to tell the Supreme Court that they might want to look at the Constitution too. The Fourth Amendment. The Fourth. It's in the top 5. The Fourth Amendment prohibits unreasonable search and seizure, and that would involve seizure of you, of an American citizen, unreasonably. You're walking on a sidewalk, minding your own business, for instance. But this is one of those instances where the court didn't explain how it reached its extraordinary. It didn't just said, nah, no, we're overruling that. We ain't putting any checks on these guys, and yeah, you can racially profile, you can grab people because of their skin color, the language they're speaking, or if you frankly just don't like the way they look. And I mentioned that this is really about racism because in Boston, for instance, there are tons of people who've overstayed that are not here legally. They've overstayed visas, they've whatever. And a ton of them in Boston, and it's well known, are from Ireland. Yeah. So, I can't remember where I read this one, but somebody posited. So do you think when the ICE agents go to Boston, they're going to be listening for, if they hear someone with an Irish accent, you think they're going to grab that person and throw them up against a metal fence? Some red-headed, white-skinned person with a brogue? You think? Yeah, I don't either. Or because, and they're in Chicago now, and Chicago has a lot of people from Poland, Eastern Europe. You think if they see a white person, eating a kielbasi sandwich or pierogies or something, they're going to grab them and throw them up against a fence? No, I don't think so. Because it has nothing to do with immigration per se. It has to do with what kind of people we allow and we don't. And it's also, all this is about getting us used to this. Used to people being plucked off streets and sidewalks, out of workplaces, out of school, and just taken away. That we'll grow used to. And you think about what we've gotten used to. You do get used to something. Something that the initial reaction is disbelief and outrage. And then if it keeps happening, not so much. Not so much. And there was a now retired higher up in the military who was particularly freaked out, as was I didn't say much about it, of our just taking out and killing those 11 people on a boat in the Caribbean. They're gone, they're dead, they're in no position to argue that they aren't drug smugglers, but even if they were drug smugglers, we are, wasn't the line always, we are a nation of law, and that we're proud of that. If you think someone is a drug smuggler, you arrest them, and they have an opportunity to defend themselves, and the state has an opportunity to give their evidence. And then if they're a drug dealer, you don't fucking spend God knows how many gazillions of dollars deploying battleships and airplanes to bomb the holy hell out of them. That's not what we do. That is what we do. It is not only against our law, it is against international law. This is what happened this is a president ordering the extrajudicial murder of 11 people because he says they're, on a boat bringing drugs. And let's stop and think about that. I mean, some people would say it's, that's a war crime, it's a violation of international law, it's all those things. But the Supreme Court, again, as you'll recall, has said that this president cannot be held responsible for any acts that so he can as he has said, I can murder someone, on Fifth Avenue or wherever, what avenue it was, and, nothing's going to happen. And then the Supreme Court said, yeah, that is true. And he can, murder those 11 souls, and there's nothing anybody can do. And let us recall that the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief of the most lethal military force in the world. And so, in the pursuit of his commander-in-chief responsibilities, which, of course, he thinks means he can do absolutely anything, the Supreme Court has essentially, truly, signed off and said, yes, you can. So, what we have here is a real big problem. And this retired military guy was saying the only hope we have is if members of the military remember who they swore the oath to. It isn't a who, it's a what. It's the Constitution. They didn't swear an oath to the commander-in-chief. They didn't swear an oath to Donald Trump. They swore an oath to defend, to uphold the Constitution. And the oath, it makes clear that unlawful orders, I mean, it's why there were Nuremberg trials, right? After we finished off those fucking fascists. We held them accountable. Sorry. You weren't just doing your job. You weren't just following orders because your responsibility was to disobey unlawful orders. And that is the responsibility of members of our armed forces. To stand silent and to acquiesce and to follow unlawful orders is a betrayal of the oath. And that's where we are. And what was the latest? I just saw today. John Roberts has said, Trump, yeah, no, you don't have to spend that all that money that the Congress allocated, I guess some $4 billion in aid funds to help people all over the world. The fact of the matter is, John Roberts yesterday said, nah, you don't have to. You just You just sit on that for a while. We'll think about that one. What is there to think about? Has John Roberts read the effing Constitution? The Congress decides where the money goes. The president does not have the authority to say, I'm not authorizing it. I'm taking it. I mean, this court has a majority of traitors on it. Traitors. I don't know. I'm a little worked up. And what else? I mean, guys, this Epstein stuff, I have seen more stuff from the birthday book that was put together. Good God in heaven. I mean, this was a book celebrating this evil man's 50th birthday. And the horrible people that lauded him in this book, I mean, quite clearly saw him for exactly what he was, because so much of what's in that book talks about, where was I reading that somebody said, if you're asked to do something, to write something in a book like that, or you're celebrating somebody in some way, you sort of boil down the essence of the person, and that when all these people that knew him, Epstein, boiled him down, they came up with two things, and I forget where I read this again. I'm sorry. I mean, a lot of them talked about how rich he was. They talked about money, and the lifestyle. And then the other thing that they referred to over and over and over again, jocularly, winking, were the girls. Girls, not women. Girls. So all of these guys who hung with him, I mean, he was so open about it. That was the lifestyle. So they say, if you're mentioned in, the Epstein files, it doesn't mean you've done anything illegal. That's true. But it does say something about you. It does say something about who you choose to hang out with. And that so many of these people, these powerful people, obviously so open about it all, felt that it was their due. These girls were just to be used and thrown away. There is another, Trump did this, his little drawing for the book. But somebody else did a drawing for the book that is so, to me, horrific. I can't even, and maybe you've seen it. It's another, guy drawing pictures. Why all these horrible men are capable of drawing, I don't know. I can't draw anything. But this guy, he draws a picture and says it's from 1983, it says. And there's a picture of a young Epstein and he's got a handful of colored balloons, and he's smiling and offering them to 3 little girls. Here, you want some balloons? But the bigger part of the picture says 2003. So this guy is saying, look what you did in just 30 years. You went from maybe being able to give a little girl a balloon to 2003. You see a jet, his jet, called the Lolita Express. You see him lie, it's in the air. He's lying on a lounge chair, naked, on a sand beach with palm trees around him, in a huge house in the background. And there are 4 blonde girls. One at his feet, one behind him, one to one side, and one on her knees, clearly filleting him. All of them essentially naked. And this was in the bound birthday book. And it says, look at you, 1983 to 2003. And then under that, what a great country. This is success. And if you think about it, that's sort of what Trump was winking at with him too. Hey, man, look what we got. Look what we can do. Look at us. And it's just the worst humans on earth. And again, not sure where I got this, but somebody said, you know, the whole thing, stop and think about what we started to hear about, something called alternative facts and, fake news. Those weren't terms that we'd ever heard before. Where did those come from? That was Trump. So he has been grooming his base for a long time, and to a certain extent all of us, to doubt what we're seeing with our own eyes. And this Epstein thing, it's so obvious that he drew that thing, that is his signature, and they're just going to deny it. They're going to deny it. When, you'd have to be out of your mind to believe the denial. But look at the members of Congress. You hear them saying it's not his signature? Yeah. Or running down the hall to avoid saying it's not his signature? Wow. Just wow. This is when we'll see how much he's been able to make his base and the Republican Party stand with him and pretend that what we're all seeing is not. The whole remaking January 6th into a day of wondrous patriotism is the other thing. If these are the kinds of lies that, and if you see as many as 40% of our fellow citizens willing to accept that, we're doomed. We're doomed. So this Epstein thing might be the final test, right, to see if enough of them have been thoroughly brainwashed. Wow. That they'll agree that this is something the Democrats have cooked up, despite the fact that it was their baby, their thing. It's just amazing to watch. Amazing being just one word I could use. Frightening, disheartening, another. So Poland has shot down some Russian drones flying over its territory. Israel has bombed Qatar, which is an ally and was involved. And I gotta tell you, I think, and you looked what's happening in Nepal, I feel like the world is about to explode. Would I be incorrect? I don't think so. And the kind of rumblings that Trump and his military are doing with our battleships and the killing of those 11 guys on the boat, I think he wants to go to war. He wants a war in Venezuela, because that gives, war powers. He wants a war. He's going to have war powers. He'll have the military in our streets. He'll have a war, and he'll be able to declare any emergency he wants, and then it's game over, unless the military refuses. And he has so depleted the military's top command of the kind of honorable leaders who would say no, and replaced them with yes men, that I don't know. I just don't know. One little thing that I saw that was somewhat surprising, because it didn't have to do with Epstein, and it didn't have to do with the things that we're usually talking about, but it was the fact that you will recall that a congresswoman from New Jersey was charged with assaulting ICE agents outside a detention center. Also, that was the same day an event where I believe the mayor of Newark was arrested and jailed, and then the charges against him dropped because they were all of these charges are bullshit. I mean, everything happened out in clear view. There's video of it all. You can see her. She's being jostled and pushed. And if in fact she ends up in that jostle and push, you can't tell if it's her, which way the pushing's going. She's in a scrum. It's bullshit. But she has been charged. This is a member of Congress charged with assaulting a federal officer. And there is an effort in the House of Representatives to censure her. Also to eject her from her House committee assignments. And since the Republicans control the House, you got to figure that's what's going to happen. But unbelievably, I believe it might have been Monday, it didn't happen. Because 5 or 6 Republican members of the House refused. I mean, I think this all happened on a procedural vote to get it. It wasn't the actual censure, but it was to get the, I don't understand the rules of the House and all these arcane, this minutia drives me nuts. But their votes were needed to get to doing this to her. And they refused. Now, that, in this day and age, constitutes an act of courage, because that would not go down well with, right, der Führer, because you do what you're told. There's no dissent allowed in Trumpistan. And the Republican behind the effort, an idiot named Higgins, went berserk and he called them out. So I want to call them out too, so you'll know these names. I probably think they're jerks 99% of the time, but this is, in this day and age, a measure of any time somebody, a Republican, stands up and says no, it constitutes an act of courage. And here are the ones who said no. Don Bacon of Nebraska, Mike Flood of Nebraska, well, that's interesting, Nebraska, Dave Joyce of Ohio, Mike Turner of Ohio, David Valadao of California, Andrew Garbarino of New York, and Nathaniel Moran of Texas. Those are guys who either voted present or abstained. Whatever they did, they didn't vote the way they were supposed to. And they got in the way of this effort to censure, by the way, a black woman member of Congress on totally trumped up. How wonderful that is the word. How fitting. On trumped up charges against her. My God. Okay, so there's that. What else? There's so much stuff, guys, and it's all unsettling. What did I see today? What they're doing to the IRS. This was a front page New York Times story today. The IRS is getting rid of rules that were put in place to try to close up some of the huge loopholes that are available to people with money to avoid paying the taxes that you or I would have to pay. There are so many schemes, totally legal, that they get into, they're legal because the Congress passes them for their friends who donate to their campaigns. And there's all kinds of ways to hide money, to hide it from IRS auditors, to make it like impossible for them to ever find it. And then Trump went after, the staffing at the IRS. There's next to nobody there to do any auditing anymore. And if they're going to audit someone, they'll audit you. Because let me tell you, your tax return is a lot easier than the rich guy's tax return, which requires forensic geniuses. But they still apparently want things to be even easier than ever for the rich not to pay any of the taxes. They give them tax breaks. They do anything they can so that they don't have to. They give them. I mean, it's. I once asked the general manager at the time of WTAE TV for a raise. I tell you this because of what his reply to me was. And he said, let me tell you, the thing about money is, the more I were to give you, the more than you spend. That's just human nature. And so you'll be in the exact same position, wanting more money. It's something that never stops. You just keep wanting more because your lifestyle rises as your pay rises, and then you feel strapped and you need to ask more. And I remember laughing with him and saying, yeah, right, I still want some money. But that is obviously what is true of the rich. I mean, if you've got hundreds of millions, if you've got billions, and yet you just keep wanting more, it's almost like a sickness. It is. It's an addiction and a sickness, and it's insane because God knows you don't need more. And that we twist, the Congress is corrupted in twisting our tax laws so that these billionaire addicts can just keep getting more and more while we, the little people, foot the bill. And the IRS now is actually going after long-time respected people who have worked there, auditor types, people who take their job seriously and were always looking to find the money that was owed we the people. The highest level one they went after is a woman named Holly Paz. She ran the division. She ran because she's gone. She ran the division that oversaw large business returns. And they got rid of her in July. She gone. She was zealous. And that's not allowed, not with the Trumpians in charge of the IRS. So they've rolled back. They fired a bunch of people that were good at it. They've rolled back all kinds of crackdowns. By the way, it says in the New York Times article that the crackdown, if it had been allowed to stay in place on these tax shelters and other stuff, was expected to raise more than $100 billion from America's rich for we the people and the government. And now that's gone. But your grocery prices, your clothing prices, your rent, everything you buy will just keep going up and up and up. Unbelievable. Excuse me, I'm slaking my thirst. Oh, I wanted to tell you, who told me? I was right yesterday when I said to my sister, what did I say to her? What was the words? Cullen, I am frighteningly becoming addled. What was iterate and reiterate. Jesus H. I said to her, doesn't iterate and reiterate mean the same thing? And Susan, who's always very sure, said no. Iterate means to say, to speak, to say something. They iterated. And to reiterate means, they said it again. It doesn't mean the same thing. Well, guess what? She was wrong, and I'm right. Iterate does not mean to say something. Iterate actually does mean to repeat. So if you iterate something, you are repeating it. So reiterate is totally, it's a, what do you call that? Right. Reiterate the re is unnecessary. Iterate means reiterate. From the Latin. I think that came from, who sent me that? Ray. Ray, I think it was Ray sent me that. Thank you, Ray. Yeah. So, just saying. But that's not the thing that I couldn't think of before that I wanted to share with you. Damn it. What the hell was it? I don't know. It's too late in the game to do. Oh yeah, red light enforcement is coming. Aaron tells me that the city is paying a bunch of money to have like these cameras at intersections in the city where it's known that people just blow through red lights. A number of them are literally blocks from my house. Because I have narrowly escaped death a few times by actually stupidly thinking that because a light turned green, I was safe to proceed. And I guess they've put out, they're going to start these things on slowly, and there'll just be 6 or 7 or 8, I forget how many, that they'll initially put up. And 2 of the cameras are going to be right in my neighborhood. One at exactly the place where I've escaped death a few times. And I say that, and I'm happy about it, because I just find it outrageous how, I've talked about this before, about how it used to be so astonishing when someone ran a red light. I mean, it was just astonishing. And it isn't at all. It's sort of like what I was saying before about the stuff that the fascists are doing here. Initially, it's astonishing. And then, with repetition, with iteration, it ceases to be astonishing. It just is what is. And then people stop paying any attention to the yellow light. So, I was on the way home from a very nice party I was at last night, and I was approaching, actually, one of the intersections that's going to have a camera on it, and I saw that I had a pretty good, the light was green, I was approaching, and I was maybe a little heavy on the gas, because I wanted to go to bed, and it turned yellow. And I thought, what the fuck? Nobody pays any attention to yellow anymore. And I kept going. And that light turned red when I was mid-intersection. So here I am, the one who's always railing about this. And, So Watchman wants to know where these cameras are going to be. Why? You want to know because you run red lights? Let's see. I'll tell you. North Dallas and Penn Avenue in Point Breeze. That's the one near me. But any of those streets that intersect Penn Avenue, those are all. Linden Avenue, Dallas, those are all run. I mean, it's incredible. And then Negley and Fifth, where Shady Side and Squirrel Hill, that's the one I blew through last night. Negley and Fifth. And those are the two in my neighborhood. But the others are General Robinson and Anderson Streets on the North Shore, the West End Bridge and Route 65, Sawmill Run Boulevard and Woodruff Street. That's at Mount Washington in the West End. And Browns Hill Road and Parkview Boulevard in Squirrel Hill. And that's it. They say that they looked at where crashes had occurred because people ran red lights between 2019 and 2023, and 7 of those crashes, by the way, were fatal. There were 750 of them, and these are the locations I have just said are the Watchman saying he doesn't run red lights. Okay, so yeah, good. I normally don't either. That was close to a first. So yeah. And that, unfortunately, the thing they're going to do is, if they catch you, the first thing they do is send you a warning, which I think is bullshit. Just, take your money. They send you a warning. And then after that, they send you a ticket if you get caught again. And the ticket is, I'm surprised how low it is. It's $100. And to me, doing something that could easily get somebody killed should be more than $100. That's all I'm saying. Okie doke. I think that's it. I want to thank you very much for being here. I want to remind you that tomorrow is the last show before they cut out part of my body. What do they do with my knee? Does it end up in one of those hazardous waste dumps, medical waste? Is that what it's going to be? My bones, my body is going to be classified as medical waste. I wonder if they'd give it to me if I asked. Could you save my knee for me? I'd like to make an ashtray out of it. I wonder if they would. I'll think of asking. All right, but so tomorrow, last show for, I think, guys, probably 2 weeks. That's my bet. From the horror stories I've heard. Oh, geez. And now you know what? I can't find my outro music. I am so sick and tired of nothing working on this. Okay, so I can't do the outro. I can just say, yada, 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 da, 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 and turn my mic off. Okay? Bye.